Hey YouTube, what's going on? I'm surrounded by Vader helmets, and so since so many of you guys like the Vader comparison back when I did Black Series versus Ruby Supreme, let's take a look at both Black Series, Ruby Supreme, and now the newly re-released EFX helmet from Sideshow Collectibles. Let's hit the intro and let's dive into some Vader.
Behold, my stuff.
All right, so we got a lot of helmets here. So what are we really going to look at today is, I guess we're going to talk about how close you can get to screen accurate and what's your budget and what's the best choice, honestly. So let's see what we can do. So why don't we start off with what we've always started off with. Why don't we take our beautiful EFX helmet and our Ruby Supreme helmet and push that back to the end, and we'll start with the two Black Series, and then we'll compare them to the EFX, and we'll just sort of do one off each time. Yeah. Okay, so what we're essentially looking at is the two Black Series helmets. Now, the reason I have two is because this one, you guys know, I got when I acquired my Ruby suit. Somebody included this helmet. And then this one I picked up recently in order to improve it. I'm keeping this piece from the older one because I may want to put it onto the EFX later. But the two helmets are almost identical, with the sole difference being the lower mouthpiece is a completely different sculpt. This has that ROTJ giant grill and a half neck. That's one of the reasons why I use this one to create the Obi-Wan head reveal. Plus my custom mask. If you like that, you can check it out on another video. Don't fall. This one has that much smaller bit here that we're used to seeing, and that longer neck, and of course the duotone paint job. Has the lights, sounds, effects, all that crap. And that full set of detail, right? Which we love. Inside and out. Now these lenses are not amber, they are actually red. The lid, it has an okay ridgeline sculpted on it. It's pretty pronounced, it's not bad at all. But it has that pour spout because it's one solid form piece, and it has these very thin edges. How does that compare to the EFX? Which is the lineage piece. So for those of you who know, the EFX has been around for a while. It's a lineage helmet. It's made from molds of production used and screen used Star Wars material. I believe they come out of the original ones that Don Post made when Lucasfilm gave them access in order to reproduce costumes for parades and things like that when Star Wars was such a big hit. They wanted to reproduce the armor and things like that back in the 70s and 80s, and Don Post got access to all that stuff. So that is the origin of this helmet. Now, what's really cool about this is they do have this magnetic top for this as well. Now, this helmet does not have the scratches on the top that the original line had. A lot of people were complaining about how they packaged it. So first of all, look at that pronounced brow. That is very, very nice. Comes that little Macquarie-esque point. Look at the thickness on the rim. But it's a lip. It has that lip, which is really huge. I'm a big, big fan of that. It's got really, really, really solid ABS plastic build. It's got this felt liner across the back here. And then there is the bump inside to help align it and, you know, pad so when it sits on top, it sits just the right way, creates the right amount of height. This is not one piece. This is three pieces put together, so there's no pour spout or anything like that, which is super cool. So it's definitely a superior helmet lid-wise to the Black Series and the Ruby Series, which we'll see the Rubies last. When you look at these two next to each other, the gunmetal is pretty close. This is a hair darker, but they both in person look extremely similar. So what's different is the width and the bulk of this is a little wider than this. But in terms of, I want to have a Darth Vader helmet for my costume, for my display, the Black Series is not bad. So for $100 you can get, or I guess it's $130 now, but for $130, the Black Series Obi-Wan version is really not bad at all. With all the bits and pieces and everything, I think it's a beautiful display helmet. But in terms of accuracy, the lineage of the EFX cannot be denied. So the EFX has, like all the Vader helmets, a strap series in the back. What's different about this is they've kind of changed it to solid straps. There's no elasticity to these straps, which I don't really like. So I may replace that with something that has some elasticity. But this clips out. These are stationary. So this I may replace with a clip that has some elasticity. We'll see. But it's got some limited, very limited padding in there. Nothing to write home about. So it's not too bad. And then, of course, the amber lenses are all one piece. And they look really good. Now, a lot of people say, like, well, what's the width difference here and here? Well, if we put them next to each other, first of all, the tusks are about 50% smaller on the EFX. And when you put them tusk to tusk, what you're really looking at is about a 1/2 inch extra width on the Black Series helmet over the EFX. So which one of these two is preferable? Well, if you're going to troop or you're going to cosplay, depending on how good the rest of your suit is, I say take the EFX helmet. At $350, it's $250 more than this one, but in terms of accuracy and profile and look, you're not going to beat it. If you are working off of like a Ruby Supreme or something like that, then you may want to go with this helmet because it affords you a lot of latitude. It's a lot easier to see out of this than this. These still create a little bit of distortion in the bubbling in the lenses and whatnot, so seeing it's better than the rubies, but it's not great. This you can see just fine. So I think that, plus the fact that you could do a pop-off reveal and just have the vocabulators and wear like a mask and have an exposed face and not sweat to death, that affords a lot of benefit. But as I was saying, the elasticity on the Black Series, it's really nice, and I very much enjoy it. So I think this is a more comfortable helmet. This is a more accurate helmet. So it comes down to how accurate do you want to be. So in terms of EFX and Black Series, obviously the EFX, once it's assembled and on your head, is going to look perfect. This, however, is still going to be extremely passable, and I can see a lot of people trooping in this. The one thing that this helmet is going to create that this helmet won't is when you get the angle right, the height and the profile in the dome is infinitely more accurate than the height and the profile in this dome. So when you put the two side by side, you can see how much wider the Black Series is. And that narrowness, both in the face and in the helmet, creates that sort of very high domed forehead shape that Vader had. And so what this ends up looking is a little squat and a little bulk. And it sort of does make your Vader look a little reduced in height. So I would say if you're costuming, you definitely want to shell out the extra for this guy. If you are displaying, I would say pick that up. I think it gives you more display options. It looks great. If you have a bunch of other lineage pieces, then knock yourself out. Now, how does this compare to the Rubies effects? Let's check that out now. All right, so now we've got EFX on the left and Rubies Supreme on the right. I think I called it Rubies effects before, but forgive me, there's a lot of helmets out here. So, what are we really looking at in the Rubies versus the new EFX that you can pick up? Well, these retail for like $300 online, which is really weird, a second hand anyway, but you used to be able to pick them up for about 80 bucks. To be honest with you, at 80 bucks, I'd still go with a Black Series helmet. It is a better paint job, offers you a lot of different things. Now, what's going on with Rubies? First of all, you'll notice that the Rubies lid is the worst of all the lids. It doesn't have that little spout up top, but there is an ever so slightly noticeable nipple like right here, but it's very, very missable. But it has the weakest detail. It's very, very, very blended, so it's not pronounced at all. It's extra thick. It's not the best lid. It's got the thin edges It's a little thicker than the EFX ones, but it's that plastic that bends under extreme heat. So it's very much got this sort of costume look to it, and that really sucks. So the lid sucks on this particular one. It also is completely put on with Velcro, and over time that will separate. So let's take that off. You can see already the Velcro has come off, and it constantly comes off. So it's got this big diamond piece in the front too, which helps it stay on, but that does sort of ruin your mask off profile. Now the other thing is, a lot of people will tell you with the modding, the helmet doesn't sit right on the rubies. It doesn't create the correct profile. So when you turn this, you can see how this is. They're going to say that when the helmet sits and it goes here, it actually needs to go back like this a little bit. So they want you to cut away pieces to mod it to make it sit just a little bit better. The other thing you'll notice is it has that classic asymmetrical neck. One side flares out more than the other. This is because these are from the Don post molds, and that was an inaccuracy that carried over into those molds from an original warping, and then they never made it better. The tusks, though they are aluminum on this, they're not accurate. They're not terrible, but they're not the best. So the shape, however, is really not bad on one of these. You could very easily take the grills out of this and mod it. It does have the bigger grill because this is supposed to be the Revenge of the Sith, but I believe it's the same size as it is on Return of the Jedi. But if you want to do A and H, you need that smaller piece down in here. So I have gone in and duotone this a little differently. I've used some graphite powder to kind of make it pop more, but it's backwards. It's backwards because all the Don Post paint jobs were backwards. So all the ones you can buy that are licensed generally are backwards right up until they did the Black Series. But that's technically not uncanon because there were several scenes in Empire Strikes Back where when they shoot Vader, they didn't like the angle and they flipped the celluloid. So there are several times where this does appear on this side because it's a flipped image. So in theory, these are still screen accurate to some degree, and as long as you have the duotone, most people will not care which side it's on. The only people who will care are the people who kick you out of the 501st for, you know, every little detail. So outside the elitists, no one's going to care. So you could still make good with a Rubies helmet. But given the paint job is backwards, given that there's warping that is carried over the years, so again, it's hard to see it, but there's a heavy asymmetry. There's a sunkenness into the cheeks, and that neck flare, that asymmetrical neck flare is absolutely annoying as hell. It's not the best in the world. Now, much like the EFX, the straps on this do not have elasticity, which I do like the elasticity, so it makes me sad. But the connection clip is on the bottom, and then it is padded. Now, I do not know if this is aftermarket padding or not from the guy I got it from, but I will tell you, it is hot and very difficult to see out of, and it fogs terribly. So I do not like wearing this if I can help avoid it. I have tested the EFX. That breathes beautifully and does not fog. So wearing a Rubies is a pain in the ass, but it definitely looks pretty nice once it's on. But it does sort of have that glorified costume look. This is going to fall over because the Velcro fell off. So let's try this backwards. And that's one of the reasons you can't get this thing to stay on. With enough heat, no matter what you glue it on with, it'll screw up. And as you can see, it's already like shifting over to the side. So Rubies FX, or Rubies Supreme, was one of the better helmets you could get that was licensed. It just doesn't hold up. For a long time, I didn't have it on display with my life-size Vader on a mannequin. I switched over to the Black Series because I wanted the Obi-Wan slash face reveal. But it even looked pretty good with this on it. It created a bit of the profile that I wanted, and I did do some events with this helmet. But as you can see, like I was saying, you can see the profile. We switch around the EFX. It's subtle, but you can see the difference in those profiles. see if we can get it just about right. So you can see this particular helmet versus this particular helmet, the profiles, they don't match. This helmet sits in such a way that it is superior to this helmet. And it's very, very small in how it's noticeable. But again, we go back to the height and what that creates. It's just, this looks like crisp, clean, beautiful. Granted, this is a little dirty, but this lid, I think, is one of the major things that sets this mask off as a poor helmet. I think the lid really kind of ruins it. If you could swap out the lid or modify the lid, then you might make do with the rubies. And if you can heat warp the neck and replace the grills and stuff, you'll be in business. A lot of people like to swap out these horrible lenses, which is also good. You could do that too. But if you have this to work with, you can make yourself a really decent helmet with a good amount of effort. But by the time you've bought all the extra parts and everything, you probably would have spent $350, and you could have already had this. So why not just go back and get this? The EFX, it's got a beautiful lid. If you want it super glossy, you can do it, but it does have that nice sort of shiny matte finish, if that makes any sense to anybody outside of the art world. Like, how could you have shiny and matte? You can. Some people may even call it like a satin finish, but it's shiny matte. But I think the fact that the paint job comes accurate with the correct duotone on the right side right away. The tusks are accurate. I don't know if these are aluminum or not. They feel cold to the touch, but I don't know. But it's got the one dirty tusk, the one clean tusk, which is correct. It's got this beautiful lid, just this pronounced ridge line and everything. It's just so nice. The thickness on this is fantastic. The scoop from the lid into the mask is perfect. It has that smaller vent on the bottom. The one thing I'm going to change on this is I'm going to go in and put an extra black cloth in on the front and bottom so that you can't see my face in it. But the lenses are fantastic. And the other thing I may do is add this piece I may just throw this piece onto this just so that I have that extra bit of detail. And since I have two of these, I only need one ever given time to doing a display or something. So I'm going to probably take this and attach it to this, and that'll be the extra bit that I do. So as I said, you can see right through, if I put my hands down, like you could see pretty good. You can see through those lenses. So it's a really, 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 really nice helmet. And it comes in multiple pieces, which is the other thing. It's not one solid molded piece. There are seam lines. You can see them. So in theory, if you wanted to disassemble this and make it a reveal helmet, I suppose you could. I just don't know why you would. But the EFX profile is just so much better than what you're going to get with the rubies. And it is better than what you're going to get with the Black Series. So overall, the comparison is, in terms of accuracy and a costume, you want the EFX. I can't think of one thing any of the other helmets do in terms of costume or display that the EFX does not do better. Everything's better. Get in there, man. I will say that putting the lid on the EFX is something of a pain. So you might need to have your friend put the helmet on you. Because once you get those shoulder bells on, forget about it. But the EFX is the superior helmet. It's the one to get, and at $350, it is absolutely what you want to get. If you have coupons and things like me, you don't pay that. But at retail, you can't argue about it. The next helmet I'd get, if you can't afford an EFX, you're going to laugh, but I do really believe, get yourself... get out of there. Get yourself a Black Series helmet.
What?
And replace the tusks or whatever, but the amount of variety and display and things you can do with this, even for costuming, you could do a reveal costume with this, just have the lower jaw and things. Or you could hack it up like I did. Let's take EFX out of here. I banged him up enough. Everybody's like, why are you banging up your helmet? It's going to be an ANH helmet. It's going to be my ANH helmet, so it ain't going to be clean anyway. You can hack it up and do an Obi-Wan. You can have a face reveal. You could do just the lower half. You could do whatever makes you happy. I do think that I would put the Black Series second. So I'm going to keep this, as I said. So far, I'm going to buy this first. Move your dumbass over. Buy this second. And then way back in bronze, the Rubies Supreme. I do not like the Rubies Supreme as a choice. There's just too many things you have to change on your own. If you like a project and you can get one cheap, knock yourself out. You can get yourself another helmet. I'm told, what is it? Skunkworks does a great lid. A lot of people 3D print their own now, and there's some great 3D print files out there that you can make yourself a great Vader helmet. And if you can, great, knock yourself out. Like, if you want to put the work in and build your own and go that route, or you want to go third-party unlicensed, do that. I'm sure there's tons of people in the 501st who can tell you about that stuff. I particularly am only looking at licensed material, so the officially released products. And I don't think you're going to beat the EFX, and in truth, I think you're going to be hard-pressed to find a better helmet than the EFX regardless. There are some people who have repainted an EFX and it looks gorgeous, but I'm standing with the EFX on this one. I think that's the best one to get. My next favorite will be the Black Series, and then, like I said, my least favorite is the Rubies. I don't like it. It does sort of just have this horrible costumey look to it, and all the warping and Velcro and things like that doesn't work for me. So that is how I rank Vader helmets. But you tell me below, what do you think? What are some of the best fan-made Vader helmets that you guys like? All right, so we've looked at all my Vader helmets that I've got. Technically, it isn't all of them. I do technically have one other one, and it was that toy voice changer one that came out in the 2000s. And I bought that just for the chest box so that I could add it as a damaged chest box for my Obi-Wan costume, just to see what it looked like. It was like 20 bucks online. But I don't count that, and I screwed around with that. It had all the ventilation holes and things in it, so I don't count the toy mass, really, but I've broken down all the different ones, and hopefully this gives you an idea about what you want to pick up in terms of an officially licensed Vader helmet. I just can't say enough, buy the EFX, buy the EFX, buy the EFX. Buy the EFX. Just buy the EFX. The last time they stopped making them, you couldn't find one for less than $600 online, and that was lucky. Most of the time, they went for $800 or more. If the fact that Sideshow's selling them for, I think, $350 means, what's up, buddy? You should just get the helmet. If you're just going to display it like this, you're just going to stick it on a thing and put it on a wall somewhere and call it a day, and you have no other lineage helmets. You have no lineage Boba Fett, you have no lineage Stormtrooper, or any of that stuff. I don't know that it's worth dropping $350 for just to do a display, as I said. Just do the Black Series then. You could display it a number of different ways. You could do an innards reveal. You could do a three-piece reveal, which I think looks a lot better. You don't see the inaccuracies in the sculpt so bad when you do the elevated split into three pieces display. A lot of people on Etsy sell displays for that you can use to set that up. I think that more often than not, if you're not trooping and things like that, or cosplaying in my case because I don't troop, I think the Black Series is going to be the way to go. I think this is probably, for fans, the best helmet that they've released, just because of the variety of it. There's just so many things you can do with it. But if you're going to wear a really nice costume, like better than a Ruby Supreme costume, then you've got to go with the EFX. If you want to hack it up and make yourself an Obi-Wan reveal, I almost go right back to the Rubies and say that would be a good helmet to hack to pieces and beat the crap out of and try to make a reveal. The only reason I did it out of this is because I had two of these, and I was like, oh, well, then I'll do that. And so I cannibalized some of the pieces and parts and things like that, like this, for other future helmets. But in truth, I think you could make a really nice Obi-Wan hack reveal or Rebels reveal out of the Rubies. It'll solve the problem that you can't see out of it because you'll get one eye back, and you can hide a lot of the crap about the lid and all that, because once you've hacked it up and hot glued it and made all the ridge lines and everything like you're supposed to, you mask a lot of the shitty lid. So if you have a rubies and you want to make an Obi-Wan reveal, do that. I think that would work. I liked doing it with the original Black Series because I knew I was never going to wear this or display it, but I had already gone in and painted the inside and everything, so when I hacked it up, it revealed the inside and the vocabulator and all that stuff, and I thought if it looked good, I could maybe do it with this, rip the vocabulators and everything out and glue them into that helmet, but I don't think I'm going to do that. It's too much effort. I don't have time. I have to make all these books. So I'm just going to lose the rubies helmet. I'm going to keep this. I'm going to keep this. And I'm going to keep this. And I don't know what I'm going to do. I may display this just like this. I may do an exploded view of this helmet. And then that's going on the mannequin. But when I costume, depending on where I'm going or what kind of shoot I'm doing, I may wear the EFX for the full Vader effect. But my goal was always to do the battle damaged Obi-Wan version because I wanted to be able to see and breathe and get some ventilation. And I don't want to install the fans, which a lot of people do. I'd like to not hack the crap out of my EFX now that I got it. So something as simple as adding this, I think, is nice and easy. Technically, that's right side up. So yeah, so Vader helmet. It's a long video, but there's a lot of helmets. So thanks for checking it out. And hopefully everybody has an idea about what they want to get. But in terms of the EFX, I'll end the video with a super detailed shot of the EFX, and then hopefully you guys are able to just go out and get the one you want. And if it helped you, great, let me know below. If you, like I said, if you have another one that you're like, no, this is the one, it's made by this person, let people know. Sound off below. Tell people who makes the best helmet in your opinion. If it's lineage, say so. If it's not, why is it better than a lineage piece? What did they fix? What did they change? If you made a video that dives in deeper and, you know, can be supplemental to this generic breakdown of helmets, link it. Let me see it. I'd be down. I'll check it out. But yeah, thanks for checking out the video. You know, if you can't buy it, you can build it. If you can't build it, you can buy it. And then if you can do both, you really might end up with something great. Cheers.